Everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into something absolutely electric. I mean, we're talking about the most captivating spectacle on Earth, the beautiful game of football. But look, we're not just here to watch a highlight reel, right? We're going to really unpack the deep, underlying philosophy of what actually makes greatness possible. We're breaking down our source material, pulling out the absolute essence of football's greatest moments, and looking at it all through one epic battle: the gift versus the grind.
To really anchor our journey today, we've got to look at this powerful piece of fatherly advice right from our source material. It goes like this: God gives you the gift to play, but if you don't practice, if you don't train, if you don't respect, you're never going to be a good player. Now, that's not just a sports quote, It's basically a universal truth. You could be born with all the raw talent in the world, like a total natural affinity for the ball, but without immense respect for the process, that talent is just going to evaporate.
Okay, so let's really dive into this central idea. We can basically split the making of a footballing legend into two vital halves. First up, you've got the gift. That's your raw talent, your innate potential. That little spark of magic that makes you stand out when you're just kicking a ball around in the park with your friends. But on the flip side, we have the grind. And this is the thousands of unseen hours of training, the strict tactical discipline, and just a profound respect for the game itself. The magic we see on TV, those moments that make millions of fans literally scream in unison, those only happen when the gift is multiplied by the grind.
So let's get right into Act 1, Audacity and Individual Brilliance.
In this first section, we're exploring exactly what happens when relentless practice empowers a single player to do the literal impossible on the world stage. So we're defining audacity here as a willingness to take bold, seemingly impossible risks on the pitch. Now, to the untrained eye, audacity just looks like pure luck. But to a professional, it's simply the execution of a highly complex skill that they've practiced like 10,000 times on an empty training ground. When you've actually put in the grind, your brain and your body are totally aligned to take risks that no one else would even dream of attempting.
And that brings us to the blueprint of a perfect strike. The source material points out three distinct, absolutely legendary moments of individual brilliance. We're talking Zlatan Ibrahimovic's incredible, totally physics-defying goal, Roberto Carlos's unbelievable strike that literally seemed to band around an invisible wall, and finally, Mohamed Salah's absolutely mesmerizing Merseyside Derby debut, where he just announced himself to the world with some sensational skill. Let's be real. None of these players just woke up one morning and decided to try these moves out of nowhere. These iconic masterclasses, they were born from relentless, obsessive practice.
We see that exact same dedication in absolute masters of the craft, like Robben van Persie and Arjen Robben. The source material highlights Van Persie's striking an absolute peach of a goal, just perfectly timing his volley. And right beside him, we see this concept of fresh legs perfectly embodied by Robben. Just imagine the scene for a second. It's super late in the match. The defenders are totally exhausted, their lungs are absolutely burning, and yet there is Robben, utilizing his immense cardiovascular conditioning, which, by the way, is born purely from the grind, to just continuously attack, attack, and attack. The talent gets you on the pitch, sure, but the conditioning, that's what allows you to completely dominate those final minutes.
But here's the crucial point. No matter how brilliant a Zlatan, a Salah, or a Robben is, football is a game played by 11 people. You can have the greatest individual strike in the entire world, but one player cannot carry a whole tournament on their shoulders. Which brings us to a really vital question. What happens when individual brilliance just isn't enough?
That leads us right into Act 2, Miracles of Collective Belief.
Let's start with what every single team is chasing: the Holy Grail. In the context of European club football, this is it, the ultimate achievement, the Champions League trophy. Our source material passionately recalls the greatest night in the history of Chelsea Football Club, the night they became European champions. And let me tell you, reaching this absolute pinnacle requires way more than just a collection of gifted individuals. It requires an unbreakable, almost spiritual bond between the players, the coach, and of course, the fans.
If we break down the anatomy of a historic team comeback, like Liverpool's legendary journey to becoming champions of Europe again, we basically see three crucial steps. Step 1. Unwavering belief. Even when you're down by multiple goals, the team's psyche absolutely cannot crack. Step 2. Relentless pressure. It's that collective, exhausting effort to totally suffocate the opponent's space. And Step 3. Seizing the moment. When that tiny window of opportunity opens, the team has to strike with clinical precision. This isn't luck, guys. It's a perfectly executed shared strategy driven by absolute faith in one another.
We see this kinetic energy, this massive collective momentum, perfectly captured when Dele Alli threads the ball right through to Lucas Moura. Moura scores. And then, defying literally all odds, he does it again and again. Spurs are kept alive, pushing all the way to the Champions League final. The teamwork, the rapid-fire passing, this incredibly unselfish play just to set up a teammate for glory, this is exactly what the beautiful game looks like operating at its absolute highest frequency.
4-3. This aggregate score represents one of the most stunning, chaotic, and downright beautiful comebacks in the sport's history, famously executed by Barcelona. To overturn a massive deficit like this, it requires a team to operate with a single mind. It requires every single player to leave their ego right there in the locker room and basically sacrifice their bodies for the badge on their chest. It is the ultimate manifestation of the grind, but elevated into a collective art form.
But you know, this intense emotional roller coaster, it goes both ways. We've seen the euphoria of unwavering belief, so we really have to ask the darker question here. What happens when the collective spirit completely breaks? What happens when all that discipline just evaporates and the entire team structure collapses on the biggest stage imaginable?
Let's look at Act 3, the beautiful, unforgiving game.
Here, we've got to examine a deeply sobering reality, the sheer, terrifying speed of top-tier football when a team loses its shape. We're talking Brazil versus Germany. Just 10 minutes in, Germany takes the lead through Thomas Müller, and then total chaos ensues. Toni Kroos makes it 3, and by the 25-minute mark, the scoreboard reads an unbelievable 4-0. The commentary from the source material calls it exactly what it was: embarrassing and humiliating. And look, this wasn't a lack of raw talent on Brazil's side. I mean, they are historically the most gifted footballing nation on earth. No, this was a complete structural collapse of the collective grind.
Let's just hold on this number for a second. 4. 4 goals conceded in just 25 minutes. At the absolute peak of international football, if you lose your focus, if you lose respect for the tactical plan even for a minute, the opponent won't just beat you, they will completely dismantle you. The game is beautiful, yes, absolutely, but it is also entirely unforgiving of complacency.
And that leaves us with two incredibly stark extremes: the peak triumphs versus the brutal pitfalls. On one side, lifting the Holy Grail and becoming champions of Europe, and on the other side, the shocking reality of a 25-minute humiliation. Both of these exist within the exact same sport. The barrier between them, well, it almost always comes down to the lesson we started with today: practice, training, and respect.
We all have something we're naturally good at, right? A potential just waiting to be unlocked. But as we've learned from the pitch in this explainer, potential without discipline is just a shadow. The beautiful game teaches us that the magic only happens when you put in the real work. So, looking at your own life, your own goals right now, what will you do with your gift? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Until next time, keep grinding.